Hello and welcome to Body in the City. My name is Jasmine.
I'm Courtnei Ray.
And welcome to Body in the City Goes Digital. Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good. We're back again.
We're back again. We love it here. Today we're really, really happy to introduce our really cool guest. Her name is Ennette and she is the most amazing person. She is a Christian yoga teacher. And we're just really excited to have you here.
I can't believe I'm here. This is honestly such a teaching moment. If you guys are listening and not watching, you need to know the setup is just beautiful. I'm having the best time.
Thank you. So, this is like our first time meeting, Ennette. We've spoken on the phone.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same. It isn't the same.
IRL.
However, what is the same is your energy and your vibe matches. There's literally, it's exactly how I remember seeing you on Instagram, where obviously I first kind of came across you. And no joke.
It's like weird. And
I'd never even stumbled across her page before.
Yeah.
And something just made me start scrolling. And then I just saw her page and instantly I was like, I need to meet her.
You sent it to me.
I sent it to her immediately.
Yeah. Oh my God, look at this wonderful woman.
And I was like, look at this woman. I need to meet her. I didn't even get to the end of the video. I was like,
And the video doesn't matter.
I didn't care where she was, even though if she was in the UK. Yeah. I was just like, we need to meet her. So really, really glad you're here.
Can't believe that.
Really happy. Yeah. Just welcome to Broadening City.
Thank you so much. As excited as you are, you don't understand. I'm 10 times excited. It's such a privilege. This is the coolest thing I'm doing this year.
We love it.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. So usually I write these kind of introductions and I'm going to read the introduction that I made for you today.
Oh, no, I'm stressed. I don't do well with this.
I'm going to read it just from what I found out from the website, from your bio, from your portfolio. I just kind of put together. I had to. I was doing FBI, deep diving, researching and doing all that I could to make sure that I highlight all your best bits.
Oh, thank you.
So obviously I introduced you. This is the amazing Ennette. And she's this vibrant, extroverted individual and a Christian yoga teacher whose online presence captivated me immediately. With a background in law, Ennette's journey took a fascinating turn after a church internship, leading her to discover yoga. Unable to find Christian alternatives, she felt inspired to blend her faith with yoga practice, something rarely seen in the UK. She is now the proud founder of Imago Dei Wellbeing, offering both in-person and online classes whilst also working for LRCC charity. Yeah. Is that right?
Gosh, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit shook.
So just join us and we're just happy. So join us today as we talk to Ennette, we dive into her experience, her expertise and her journey into being a yoga teacher, a Christian yoga teacher to be specific, in today's episode of Body in the City.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys. And cut. Sad. End of episode.
Yes. Is there anything that Jazz missed off?
Honestly, I don't think so. I'm racking my brain, but I don't think so. You nailed it. There's obviously the tumultuous 20s, waitressing, but we're happy to skip that out. That's okay.
It's all part of the journey, though.
It's all part of the journey. Best of times, worst of times.
But you love it, though. I read you really love the hospitality industry.
I really, really did. I think, any job, it will have its difficult things, but I think unlike maybe law or that sort of intellectual study that I had to work very hard to be good at, I didn't have to work very hard to be good at saying hi to people and making them feel welcome. And it's really lovely to sort of be able to tap into your natural strengths and skills as a person and feel like for a really long chunk of time you can just operate in that space just within your comfort zone. So it's really nice.
Do you work in that field anymore?
Oh, I miss it. Every time I go to a cafe, I'm just such a loser. I love talking to the wait staff. I want to know the goss. I want to know what's the best thing on the menu. I feel like top tip in life, ask the waiter if you had a day off and you were eating here,
what would you order? Yeah.
Honestly.
And it also makes their day as well.
Yeah. The game.
I acknowledge them.
And you're not allowed to judge people, but this is how I judge people. How are you treating the people that are serving?
Of course.
It's just such a big thing for me because I used to be in those shoes. And I love that space. I miss it.
Oh, amazing.
So in Jasmine's intro, she of course mentioned you're a Christian yoga teacher.
Yeah.
You're in that space,
epic.
in that
world.
world.
Oh my gosh, it's so epic. It just feels like mic drop moment every time I have to say that sentence. I love Christian yoga and I just wait for the tumbleweed or I don't know, the lightning or whatever.
No, I think it's amazing. As Jasmine said, I think it's when she sent that to me, for me, it was the first time seeing that. So I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Why is there not more spaces like this? It's definitely needed.
I know, that was my thought. Yeah. So I was like, I'll just have to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So what do you feel, okay, just for those who don't know what Christian yoga is, maybe explain to our audience, what is Christian yoga and how does it differ from traditional yoga?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a lot of people, when I say Christian yoga, will feel like, oh, it's an oxymoron, or the two things can't go. There's an automatic assumption that yoga is its own religion, but it's actually just a movement practice. And because it's based or started from India and like far Asian countries, it's like, just a natural assumption that it will be either Buddhist or Hindu faith. So essentially, Christian yoga is just you being a Christian, but loving the movements and I guess maybe the dynamicism of yoga and bringing in your own faith into that. So I think I loved what you said about integrating faith into yoga, and there's definitely like a merging of the two. So it's this movement practice based on how you breathe and trying to move and keep in step with your breath. And we read that in scripture, the Bible tells us to try keep in step with the Spirit. And as Christians, we have this sort of innate awareness through like Sunday school and like our Christian communities that our bodies are a temple, they're the temple of God. And I think it says in Romans, like, your body's not your own, it was bought with a price. It's now the temple of God. And that's just such a beautiful kind of awe-inspiring thought for me. And so, that's what Christian yoga is. It's contemplating and thinking about all the things that you love and know from God's word and who he is, and weaving it into the beautiful practice that is yoga. For me, it ties a lot into the poses and the names of them. They'll remind me of different Bible verses. So you've got the two that are classic examples I use when chatting to people would be like mountain pose or eagle pose. In Isaiah it says, those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They will rise up on wings like eagles. So if your body is doing something really challenging physically and like complex and is engaging your core and focusing on your balance and your strength and the flexibility in your arms and your limbs, this is a really nice way to allow your body to be working, but also focusing your mind and heart on this passage of scripture. So you have this kind of mind, body, heart worship of God as you like weave in that idea and thinking, gosh, Lord, if I'm coming on my mat today just a little bit weary, here I am in my eagle pose. I believe that you can fill me with strength to get through the challenges that I'm facing. Or standing in Tadasana, in mountain pose. I think David in the Psalms, he says, I look to these mountains. Where does my help come from? Does it come from these mountains? It comes from the Lord God, the maker of the heavens and the earth and these very mountains. And there's this lovely idea to find that sense of grounding and stability, to feel the earth beneath you. There's another line of scripture, I'm obsessed with the Psalms. It is like, God is the firm bedrock beneath our feet. One of the names of God is Yahweh Tsur, Tsur, Yahweh Tsur. We know like Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Rapha, all those classics. And this one means God the rock. And so again, you have all of this beautiful already existing Christian philosophy that sort of can marry so well with what you end up practicing and doing in yoga. And I just love that. So it's a long-winded answer.
It's a beautiful answer.
That's what I would say. That would be the difference from Christian yoga. So if you were just to go to a standard yoga class, I think maybe they would weave in some Hinduism, maybe some mysticism, maybe some New Ageism. That's all part of it. They would maybe do that. Or you could go to like a purely like exercise fitness yoga where they sort of say the English names of the poses and you sort of work through it really fast. That's also a thing. But Christian yoga would just have this emphasis on the Spirit of God with you, in you, as you sort of contemplate and move and breathe and do these things.
It's really beautiful, isn't it?
Just for those who are listening, not watching, the sparkle in Ennette's eyes when you just spoke through all of that, I'm like, wow.
I felt it too. It was like
mesmerised for a moment.
So obsessed. Like any opportunity to just talk about Christian yoga, I will just talk for hours. So you need to like keep me in check.
No, we love the
or I'm boring
the
people,
love.
but
Oh my god,
No, the
felt it, the passion.
It
It makes me want to go to a class.
Same.
Right now.
You'd be so welcome. Honestly,
We're gonna get on the train to Nottingham and we're gonna go to her class. We'll do
on a
more.
Wednesday. You'd be welcome.
Because you are so obviously clearly has the passion and the experience. How did that start? What's the journey?
Guys, it's such a wild journey. So I was born in Zimbabwe and I came to England when I was 13. So for any of just like my immigrant first gen peoples, I see you, hello. And coming from sort of African or Black Caribbean cultures, there's such a heavy emphasis sometimes on witchcraft and sorcery and just like the dark side of spiritual life. So, you know, when Paul says like the battle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, that's something that I don't take lightly. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's no small thing to live in freedom and to not be caught up in sort of that darkness that definitely exists and is part of people's sort of generational curses or burdens that they need to break. So when I started thinking about getting into yoga, I for sure thought my mum was going to be like, what are you doing? This is nonsense. I remember being like 14 here in England, secretly listening to Avril Lavigne, such an angsty teen. And
We were all there.
It wasn't Buju Banton.
And I just wanted to be like an emo, like wearing black girl with like the metallic belts and like being a skater girl who's gonna fight a skater boy. It just wasn't happening. My mum was not having this nonsense. She didn't buy black clothes like that. And I remember I went to a friend's house and I put on some black nail polish and I came home and my mum was like, why would you do that? Only witches wear black nail polish. So to say that I had like a really protected and traditional and strict Christian upbringing is like not an exaggeration. So, but on the flip side of that, my mum is a pharmacist who has this, I have no idea from where, but this incredible holistic awareness and deep wisdom and understanding about the body and the goodness that God has given us as human beings, as people who represent him on earth. It's like one of the name of my business, Imago Dei Wellbeing and Yoga, the image of God. So I think she really weaved that in throughout my entire childhood, and I'm so lucky because I think nowadays social media just is not, I never grew up with it the way it is now, and it must be really hard, like all of the ways that you can hate your body or compare yourself to other people. I think my mum really instilled in me this value and this dignity of like what my body is as the temple of God and looking after it. And yeah, so she's like a pharmacist, but if you get sick at home, she'd be like, go drink some water, go have a nap. She's like, no paracetamol, only if you're in death's doorstep. So I hope this connects to someone out there, but this is like how I started. This is my context. So tumultuous 20s, we've all been there as part of the journey. And I remember going through a really kind of personal crisis of faith based on the circumstances going on around me. And I felt like, God, where are you? And because I grew up just so sheltered, maybe a bit naive, I was like, oh, this is how I'll get God's attention. So I actually started smoking. I started social smoking. I was around in the hospitality scene and that's what people were doing. And I was really intrigued by it. And I'm a bit of a nerd. Like I did a deep dive. I was like, what's happening in my lungs? What's in the cigarettes? And like, I actually know a bizarre amount about cigarettes and like what goes into them and how they're made and stuff. But I was like, okay, this is a reversion of what your lungs are designed to do. Your lungs are designed to take in CO2 and bring oxygen, like to take oxygen out of that.
Right.
And when you're breathing cigarette smoke, it's like, it's just too much. It's too much CO2 and it like affects how your lungs operate. So I was like, okay, I need to do something healthy. I've picked up a bad habit. I need to pick up a good habit. So to counteract it, balance. So I started running and then I was like, okay, I don't want to get injured. So what do? You stretch before and after. And obviously stretching, went onto YouTube, stretching, and I just saw like yoga stretches, runner stretches. And I remember thinking, gosh, I feel absolutely amazing when I do this. And it helps me run better, helps me recover better. And then that just got me into being really, really curious about yoga, but just not knowing where to start. And one of my Christian friends was like, oh, why don't you try yoga with Adrian? She's really lovely. Shout out Yoga with Adrian if you ever hear this. Your biggest fan in the UK. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I started. And I would do this thing. I'd watch the video before bed and I'd pray and I'd be like, Lord, whatever's from you, will I remember it and do it tomorrow? And if it's not from me, then I'll just forget it and that's fine. And so I would watch like a 20-minute video, fall asleep. And the next day when I wanted to go for a run, I would like do the stretches I remembered. And I remember calling my mum and being like, Mum, like, I'm really getting into yoga. It's really like so interesting, but like how I feel about it. It's so much mentally, emotionally, and then for my body as well. And she's like, yeah, of course, Ennette. It's because like that's how God designed us. You're like one whole integrated being. And that shocked me to my core. My mum, who's like no black nail polish, is like, oh yeah, yoga, stretches, amazing. She's like, yeah, I mean like Tai Chi, all these things, they're rooted in like real wisdom. Like we need to learn from these cultures the things that they're good at, and ultimately you know who you love and serve and the God that's in your heart.
Right.
And that's the most important thing. And I think just that freedom is honestly how the journey started. So basically 22, 23, I just would now do yoga. My mum was okay with it. And now it's okay with it.
Got to go ahead.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
I know. It's so, again, long-winded, but hopefully.
No, it's really insightful, especially when you mentioned like having this hesitation about speaking to your mum about if it's something that's acceptable.
Yeah.
How's the response been from your Christian community whom didn't know a Christian yoga existed before you did it? Like, what was their views, their interpretation? Like, it must have been quite hard to convince them to attend, perhaps.
That's such a thoughtful question. And yeah, it's been really mixed. It's really interesting. I think at the start, God was so kind, and my Christian community was so, I think kind as well would be the right word. We were all in lockdown, we were all a bit bored, and everyone in some way or another was like beginning to practice mindfulness or do yoga. Sometimes when someone's never done yoga, I'm like, we've all been through a pandemic, what are you doing the whole time? If not either like doing couch to 5K or doing yoga.
Or baking banana bread.
Chocolate cake as well.
Oh yeah.
That's true. Banana bread. Oh my god.
Yeah, that banana bread.
Flashback.
Throwback.
Wow. Yeah. So everybody was sort of just curious, and they're like, "Oh, I'm interested in this. I'm seeing more and more people do it. It's around me all the time. What would it look like for it to be Christian?" And I was going to do like a focus group as I was thinking about setting up a business. I was like, okay, well, is there even a market for this? Because maybe I love it, but that doesn't mean everybody else will. So I texted a few friends like, would you be up for maybe doing like a 20-week thing with me, one class a week. I'll write a little like devotional to go with it. And it was basically just copying Yoga with Adrian's like 30 days with Adrian at the start of a year in January. She does this thing, if you know, you know. And I just thought I'll do that, but I'll do like a Christian version for you. And then you can see how you're getting on with it. And I thought like 4 or 5 max I would do it with. But just, I get so excited and I can't keep stuff in. I'm terrible at keeping secrets, like good secrets. I'm so bad. And I think there was just like the momentum snowballed like more than I ever would have imagined. So like someone would tell their friend and someone would tell someone else. And I had over 70 people in this private WhatsApp group, which is crazy to think. Just I was expecting to start with 5. And it was some people that I hadn't even met who weren't even local to Nottingham. So that was so cool. And so for that, I'm like, wow, if it weren't for those people, I never would have started. I would have honestly just left it. It would have been my secret hobby that I loved. But yeah, I have such a soft spot for those people. But I think as the years have gone on, it is really challenging to get people to look past the first impressions or the way that it is really tangled up in other faith religions or just like the generic universalism that's quite in vogue at the minute, and how everyone's kind of practicing a bit of new age or mindfulness or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, it's not just that though, there's more to it. It's your intention and what you bring to it. But yeah, there's real, I guess, like not resistance maybe, but just not knowing.
There's a hesitation there, for sure.
Yeah, that would be the right word. So if you don't know and you're not sure, then you don't do it.
Because people fear things they don't necessarily understand.
Spirituality as well is very personal.
Exactly.
So I think that's, it's a very personal journey. Yeah. So for you, what does it do for you?
I can talk about this for days
what does
and
it do
days.
for you? Because you've just mentioned that there's hesitation for some people and they don't want to deep dive because they're unsure. But what are the positives?
I feel like just a quick Google, like yoga is one of the therapeutic things for so much. Like if you struggle with sleep, if you've got back pain, if you've got headaches, if you just want to stretch well and look after yourself after any sort of exercise, like yoga is just one of the prescribed options of what you can do, which I just think is amazing that it's this like dual form of exercise that like does so much. For me personally, I remember my first yoga class. I was so rubbish. I could barely keep up with what the teacher was saying to do. I was shocked at everybody else around me. But I got to the end and it was a hot pod yoga class. So if you've ever like heard of the concept, it's just you're in a hot room and it's like 35-degree heat and you move quite quickly.
Rough. It's a sweat out my hair every time I used to go there. And people be like dripping with sweat next to you. I had a love-hate relationship with it, and then eventually I was like, no, this is not for me.
Not for your hair.
This is not for my hair.
No, come back. I'll bring it back to it. Honestly, I'm obsessed. It's the African in me. I just love the heat. But I remember thinking, gosh, I'm so sweaty. It's like I've done a hardcore workout, and yet I feel so calm.
Yeah.
And yet all the time the instructor was telling me to remember to breathe and to focus on my breath and saying these poses like warrior or eagle or mountain or child's pose. I mean, even child's pose, so tender. Like God says, the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these, and to come to his presence like a child. Can your heart and mind mimic what your physical body posture is already doing? Like being with God, just like a child. No expectations, full of trust, full of openness. There was just so much there for me that I was like there in the last posture Shavasana, like this was everything. This was like mind, body, soul. And like when you're just busy in our fast-paced lives, the efficiency of that, like, if you've grown up in a Christian home or community your whole life, like the quiet time, it's drilled into you. Start your day with the Lord, end your day with the Lord. But you could just do that all in one, either like by doing a yoga practice in the morning or evening or whenever you want to fit it in. And I loved that. I think maybe the other thing is the free therapy of it all. Like I think so much of the philosophy and the thinking behind yoga is so beneficial. I think it's stuff that I read when I'm looking at Psychology Today, or I'm like listening to Dr. Julie on Instagram. Anybody out there listening to Dr. Julie, we love her. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is yoga. I get this. That sense of self-awareness and self-knowledge. I feel like it's the best gift that you give people around you. So much backlash of stuff that you experience in life is just the overspill of someone's emotional baggage just getting in the way of how they're interacting with you in that moment. And if we could all just sort of take a second to be like, whoa, I feel really defensive and like a bit hot and angry, like what's happening in my body and therefore what's happening with me emotionally. And then just using your breath to meet yourself in that space with compassion. It's so great. I think the Dalai Lama said you could eradicate violent crime within 2 generations if you introduced yoga into primary schools and like did it as like a practice.
Part of the curriculum.
Part of the curriculum, which is powerful. Like,
no, it really is powerful.
There are some schools
that have it
that are
integrated.
Young as well.
This.
Just be so. It's very interesting because we've done a few interviews now, and I think we're very, self-care junkies. The question always comes up: self-care, wellness. Favorite buzzwords of ours.
We love it.
I just love self-care and wellness.
And it's very interesting for me that a recurring word that a lot of people are using is being still.
Yeah, you love this statement, isn't it?
Because I just like
it. I love it, and I love that you love it.
Being still, and I do think yoga allowed that. Like, during lockdown, I don't know if you know, Jasmine started yoga classes online for all of the family on Instagram Live. And up to now, my mum does it every morning. My mum wakes up 5 a.m. to do a stretch.
Throwback.
Since then,
I think what you said, I know, I'd love to.
Need it.
It's a strange one because, like what you said, there's this like call to action, right? You come into this room, and it's such a selfless practice. I feel like, especially. I'm a teacher, and even when I used to teach class in studios and for family online, you never went in there with this mindset of how much money I'm going to make today. Yes. It's not driven by that at all.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you'd be sorely disappointed.
You will be. And I feel like that's what kept me going. Wow. And one of my like slogans and something that I say quite regularly is that what I got great pride from was leaving my students, guests better than how they came in.
Yes, and you see that difference as a teacher.
You see it all the time.
How they walk in and then like
how they leave. They like walk in, they float out, and I'm like, I did that, and that's what kept me going. Like Courtney said, it was just I was very fed up with the idea of lockdown, and it didn't faze me, but I didn't want it to kind of like bring me down, affect me mentally, and the rebellion in me was just like, I'm going to the park to do some yoga under a tree. Peace. Took my dog, took my camera, jumped on Instagram Live, and every day for as long as I possibly could, I taught these classes, right? And just like you said, it's like knowing that you can offer this service is such a gift. And I always believe that if you have a gift, that gift is from God, and you should share it in any way that you can see fit. And I know as well that there's something you said that always sticks in my head, and I'm paraphrasing and it's not going to be correct.
Don't worry.
But you said something along the lines of, you know, your body, or this place where your body is now, is like a place where God chooses to dwell.
Oh yes, this is like a game-changing quote. It's from this theologian, philosopher, thinker person called Henry Nouwen. He has an incredible story, and anything he writes, honestly, is just so beautiful and so profound. I would highly recommend go Google him, read anything he's done. Henry Nouwen, he has this quote where he says, where you are now, you and I, we're God's place. And he uses this Greek phrase, which is topos, tau, theo, which is God's place, just in English. And he just says to ask yourself this: where is the glory of God? What place, what temple, what church, what building, what place? Where is the glory of God right now? And if the glory of God is not right here, where you are, where else is it going to be?
Right.
And that's the whole wonder and magic of Jesus and the cross and the resurrection, this idea that now Christ in you, Christ with us, Emmanuel, God is here in you, with you, like in the very breath that you breathe. And again, I'm telling you, it's a game-changing thought. Like, it focuses your heart and mind and brings up like an indescribable sense of peace and awareness of God with you, which is such a gift to give yourself, to give to others. No,
it was so special, and it really made me click. I was just like, okay, let's bring about this yoga practice. I mean, since having my baby,
congratulations,
thanks. Yoga, funny enough, wasn't something that I was in love with during pregnancy, which was strange for me. I mean, pre-pregnancy, I was like a full yogi, very active. I think naturally, like, pregnancy just changes everything about your just whole makeup. And I went to a few classes, probably up into my second trimester, and I loved it because it was that I wasn't showing as heavy, so I could go to like a power yoga class and power through. And only at Shavasana, when I'm lying on my back, people were like, oh, and the teacher came up to me and was like, I didn't know you were pregnant. And I'm like, it's perfectly fine. I'd rather you treat me normally than try to like baby me. But once I entered into my third trimester, I don't know, I think the imbalance, the size, the swelling, I just wasn't really feeling it. And it's found, even to today, like I can't bring, I go to the odd class here and there, and I go to like a reformer Pilates class if I can but I personally struggle like to find that same version of myself I was. And when I spoke to a good friend of mine, she said, you need to stop looking for that person. That person doesn't exist anymore.
That's literally exactly
you know, that person doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that that person's not waving you and bidding you farewell, but it's like, go and reinvent her, bring her back into a different space.
She's a part of you. She got you to this place,
right?
And now
you know, and I hope that resonates with like women, mothers out there who don't feel the same in their bodies. And my body's completely foreign to me now, but it's still a place where God dwells. You know,
you're gonna make me cry.
No, honestly,
it's so true.
It's still the place where God dwells. And it reminds me of that you create life, and it's this place where God dwells, and to bring about that self-awareness.
Oh my gosh, like of all the vehicles of grace that God could have used to bring Jesus into this world, he chose the womb of a woman. Like, it's just no small thing to be a human being and a woman with a body. Like,
it's sensational. Yeah, no denying that. So so just kind of going back to like the physical, the mental aspects of yoga. And I think it's fair to say that within like our community, the Black and Brown community, I found, especially I did my teacher training back in 2018 when people like us weren't on the course. I was one of 3 girls of a 200-person course. Wow. This is probably like a really pretty simple question, but why is that? Yeah. Do you think that's changed? Yeah. And how can we all collectively change the narrative to introduce people to movement therapy? It doesn't have to be kind of just yoga, but movement therapy, because it is a therapy and it is movement. And especially if you're someone who believes in God and you want to find this connection with God, and you might have your reservations about yoga having its roots in Hinduism, even though it's not for Hindu people specifically, what advice would you give to people who are on this journey of self-discovery, wanting this closeness with God, knowing there's the benefits, like you've mentioned, of having this, like, you know, the pranayama, so the breath control, and the you know, the thought, the meditation, and the calmness. Other than obviously checking out Ennette's online courses and classes, how would you get someone who's interested into movement therapy? What advice would you give to the Black community, especially, whom are a little bit more skeptical? How would you help them to overcome that?
Gosh, that's such a
loaded question.
I know, you're like, it really seemed like a simple question. I'm like, what? This is huge. I think when I did my yoga teacher training, I was really lucky. It was this wonderful lady in Denmark, so it was Christian yoga training. But I was the only Black person. I was the only young person as well. Everybody else was much older. I think a lot of it, the really sad thing that I see when I look at yoga classes is that there are a lot of like people with money, because you're now like, you've made it, you're older, you're in your 40s and 50s, so you're like middle class or upper middle class, but maybe you're like time poor, so you only squeeze in an hour and that's it, that's all you can do. And then you've got students or younger people, you're just making your way through life, and you're time rich but you're money poor. And I think that's such a shame. I think yoga is it's sort of branded as this really luxury self-care treatment.
Yeah, we spoke about this.
And I don't know, this might feel a bit tangential, but even like you talking about your body changing, I think when you look at Instagram, the thing that people I come across all the time is, I'm not flexible enough. Like what you see online is not the reality of what yoga is.
It's not a representation of what yoga is.
It's not a representation of like what you can do, or what's available to you, or even the people that actually do it. Like, go to an actual yoga class. They don't look like the people you're seeing on Instagram. I promise you. They look just like you. They're, struggling to breathe through, even though the teacher's like, breathe, you got this. And so that just really, really breaks my heart, because I think it's so easy to be self-conscious about how you look and how you are in the class, and there's so much around the activewear that you wear, or like the yoga mat that you've got, or all of these things that just aren't yoga. So I would just encourage you to find your place. And even if it's not perfect and it is filled with people you can't connect to, or people who don't look like you, I think see for yourself how you feel and what you experience. And it always starts there with that level of discernment. Like, is this for me? And is this drawing me closer to God, or is this drawing me away? Is this helping me to feel better, or is it helping me to feel worse? They're just simple questions, but they're a really good starting off point, and you can't do it unless you try.
Right.
I also think it's really hard. Maybe it's just like the time we live in, but it's like the worst thing to be embarrassed. It's like, I would rather die than do something embarrassing. And I get it. I feel that too. But like, when you're trying something new and you've never done it before, you're not going to be good at it.
Right.
Regardless. So it doesn't matter. Like, you just sort of accepting that and like letting go of that ego. It's so hard, but it's so good for the soul. I remember starting running in lockdown, and I'm still a sweaty mess, to be honest. But I always say, like, this is good for you, Ennette. Like, it's really humbling to just go out, look the worst, be sweaty, and just like try breathe. It's just, So those are the two things I'd say. I'd be like, if you're feeling self-conscious, for a second, just try shed that sense of like self-consciousness that clings on us so heavily, and close your eyes, just feel into your body and ask yourself how you feel and how you feel, if you feel connected to God or not. So that's how I would sort of encourage somebody to try movement therapy. And it could be anything. It could be going for a walk, it could be a jog, it could be going for a hike, just being out in nature. It could be yoga, it could be Pilates. Like you said, it's all movement therapy, and it's just so good for your body. You said so many other questions, things.
I think I've even forgotten now.
No, I guess
I'll definitely remember at some point.
I guess it's just that it sounds like the access as well, making sure it is accessible. Yoga is accessible. You can do it in your room, first thing, wake up and breathe, breath work, being outside as you mentioned. And I do think, it's just alluded to what you've asked as well, it's just the community as well. I think I think we need to build somehow. Definitely the community in the yoga space, in the Black Christian yoga space, even more so, to have the conversations. I've had friends even during lockdown when I was more on my yoga. And then after, I did want to do like classes with some of my girls, and there was a few who said, no, I don't believe in it. And it's a shame, because it would have been such a nice experience. But I wasn't personally aware that there was like a Black Christian yoga community, or even just a Christian yoga community.
It's hard as well to have that conversation.
I totally relate. Like,
so
I don't know if you're Black and you love Jesus and yoga, where are you? Slide into my DMs. Let's be friends. I'm looking for those people too. And I'm so excited. There is like a growing Black yoga community, which is so cool. There are a few in London that I've come across. I think there's like Mind Walk Yoga. Love those girls. I think they do such a good job, and I don't know loads of other people, but it's there, it's happening. But access is so true. Like I was saying, maybe I forgot or I got sidetracked, but yoga is actually really, really expensive. I remember
in London especially.
Cities.
In London especially. I know Nottingham perhaps is a little bit different.
London is a different beast.
It's a different ball game here.
It's a different ball game.
Honestly.
But in general, like broadly speaking, yoga is just this higher price point luxury self-care thing in comparison to like buying a face mask in Boots or doing something. But like there's like a Pilates studio around the corner from where I work, and it was like £70 for like a 3-class taster, and I was like, this is crazy. I can't afford this.
No, it's mental. That's about right. For London.
This is what
it's
people
scary.
Were telling me,
it's like, 22. I pay £22 per reformer class.
Wow. At least you can pay per class. I think this studio was like, commit,
so
love us.
I'm always a +1 for my reformer. I can't afford it. It's just too much. I just refuse to because of the price point. But I love it.
Yeah, I honestly get that. So before lockdown, I didn't even own a yoga mat. I didn't do yoga at home. I was going to the studio. And during lockdown, I had to ask myself, Ennette, do you even like yoga, or do you just have a bougie hobby where you like sweating in your room? Like, what's going on? And that really forced me to maybe not get serious, but at least just ask myself hard questions about like what it is I love and what's happening. And it sort of opened the doors for me, that exactly like you were saying, like you can do it in your room. It starts with breath work. You can, there's free videos on YouTube.
Your course.
My course. Oh man, I try so hard for it to be an accessible price point. But I remember like when we first like connected, Jazz, it was like, it's so tricky. Like, you know that you've got rent to pay. You know that you want to be honoured for your time.
Of course.
And it's like, how do you do that well without feeling like people are gonna feel like they're being ripped off? Like, it's just so hard. And when there is like a cost of living crisis, or when you just have other priorities, it doesn't feel easy to like part with £15 or £10, however much the class is. But I often think to myself, or at least what I've heard other yoga teachers say, which I think is really true, saying the sentence, oh, I don't deserve that.
Will make you believe that.
And like just seeing like, how does that make you feel? Or like, I don't deserve that self-care. I don't deserve that class, or that class is too expensive for me. When in reality, you'll go out for a coffee with a friend and you'll get like the coffee, the cake, maybe 2 coffees, and it's all coming up to about £15. Or you'll go out for a meal and it's like £30, £20, depending on where you go, maybe even more. And we're all happy to spend this. Or maybe you'll go out for drinks. I love a cheeky cocktail. Like 2 for 1, it's still £15.
Netflix is how much now?
I don't know, like £100. They stop increasing their prices.
Like Netflix, Spotify, all these things that you're spending money on. It's like, but this is something that will bless you for so long.
I think we mentioned this before on a previous podcast. It's trying to almost get people to think about their self-care as a form of MOT. As like, you know, if you drive a car on the road, you know you're going to have to put aside money for fuel, servicing, all the things that it needs. And of course, it's like not everyone has just unlimited funds to do all the wellness things in the world. But if you can look at your finance structures, if you can look at some things that can be, you know, can be moved. I mean, if you're smoking 10 cigarettes a day, you're probably going for, I don't know how much a pack of cigarettes cost. Like, is it like £10? I don't know.
Honestly, it's like £22, I swear.
Okay, so imagine if you like took that away. That's like a class a day. So I think, you know, it's easier said than done. Just say, oh, you know, make space for it. But I think this channel especially, we're very, very conscious that it's not easy for everyone, but do what you can with the means, within your means.
I love this.
You know,
it's
do what you can within your means.
Don't count yourself out because you think I can't do it. So you can't go to the like posh studio and that part of.
Then you go on YouTube. You watch a video.
On YouTube, like
in your garden.
You go to the garden. You go to the park.
Living room. Go to the park. There are so many free videos. Or like go on Instagram. Just see what this person is doing. Find somebody who makes you feel good and about your body and yourself, and then be like, okay, cool. I'll move with them because they're not here trying to make me feel rubbish if I can't bend this way. They're giving me different options. They're encouraging me to use books and props and whatever else I've got around me. All of this kind of stuff.
This is why representation is so important and matters, because to the people we're talking to about, you know, go out and just find the resource that's available to you now. I mean, 10 years ago, those resources weren't so readily available.
Encyclopedia books.
You know? Okay, it's not that far back. How old are we? I don't do it.
Just like black or brown or different bodied people online, it just wasn't a thing.
No.
Like, we live in a new age and it's getting better and it's so exciting.
It is. It's so exciting to see the growth. And I don't know, I'm just very optimistic. And I believe in setting prices that reflect your value at the end of the day. And I set my structure, my prices for all my services based on my time, my effort, my energy, my expertise and my study. And it's very common, especially within the Black community, especially with women, to lower their price point for a fear of, I don't want to scare them away. And I think it's really important to stay true to what you know you're good at and what your niche is. And the right clientele will value that. And those that do, they stick with you.
Exactly that. If they see your value, they're your customers. If they don't see value, you don't want them as clients.
This is as simple as that.
That's so true. And I think what I really liked from Mindwalk Yoga when I was like trying to find other people who looked like me who were doing yoga online, they have like pay what you can schemes. I don't know if they still continue that, but I think during lockdown, if you wanted to join one of their Zoom classes, it was like pay what you can, pay it forward if you can afford more. It was incredible, and I was like, I have to have this as part of like my website and how I do classes.
You do like a bursary.
Yeah, there's a bursary. There's a pay what you can, and I remember like the guy I was working with to develop the business and to do like the website. He was like, oh yeah, like that's a bit tricky. You sure you want to do that? That's like not really like a model that's encouraged. And I was like, it doesn't matter. This is what I want to do. I want everyone to be able to afford this. And everyone's first class is free because it's hard to pay for what you don't even know you're going to like. So you can come with no expectations. You'll fit in and where you will like feel your best self, I would say. Don't count yourself out and think, I can't do these things.
And also as well, I think it's understanding that you deserve it.
Yeah.
That's a really special one as well.
Value what you want.
Yeah, value what you want. And you deserve it. You deserve that peace, that time, that space. And if you can find or resonate with a teacher whereby they're holding space for you, then I always recommend people try to just gravitate. You will naturally gravitate towards those people, but you know, you deserve to feel good. You know, being stiff, being all tight in the shoulders, having these tight hamstrings, whatever it might be. I've met so many people over the years and they're just like, that's just how I am.
Oh no, it's like, you don't have to live this way.
And I'm like, you know, you don't have to be in pain, right? You know that you're not meant to be chronically stiff. You know that you can relieve some of this tension and stiffness. And they look at you like baffled. And I'm like, try X, Y, and Z. And they're completely miffed by something we think is just like basics. And they take your advice and they do a class or they do a stretch. And they're completely like, oh wow, like I feel better already. And I'm like, it was really that simple. And I think a lot of people just need someone to bring it to them, and I'm hoping that's what this podcast does. We're giving you the ingredients to make it work,
or at least even just start thinking about it.
Just to start thinking about it is the first step.
How can you be like your best self for people around you when you don't have anything in the tank? Like it's simple physics. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so it's like, this is time for you to replenish and to fill up on all these good truths. I mean, for me, it will always come back to Christian yoga, but like to fill yourself up so you're able to give back what you've just been filled with, and be able to be patient, to be loving, because actually you took time to move your body with kindness and to meet your body where it's at with compassion, and to breathe through the things that feel uncomfortable and not try rush past the discomfort. And all of that trickles like from your mat onto your life off the mat. Like, and I think that's so beautiful.
No, it's stunning.
Oh, you said so many good quotes and scriptures.
So many.
Words of advice. Do you have like a favourite, like a go-to, I don't know whether it's a scripture or any, just kind of a go-to
passage that you... Or in your classes, do you lead with one passage, or do you kind of use each pose and then tie that back to a scripture?
Yeah, I think...
How does it work?
For me, that's how it works.
Okay.
And so I can only share what I know and what happens for me, and I hope that it blesses others. So I think because your body's doing something, then I'm like, how does this remind me or connect back to scripture, or like a Christian thought or quote or like a concept. But a favourite go-to one, I definitely think the one I've already shared by Henry Nouwen, that, you know, right where you are right now is the glory of God is there. I think that changes the game when you start to think about your life and your body that way, and where you are is holy ground, and you get to bring God into that space where maybe it felt like lifeless and empty. I think maybe my favourite one that I will always start with and end with is from Proverbs 20 verse 22, and it says, the spirit that God breathed into man is like a lamp shining a light into the innermost corners and crevices of our being. And this light is never there to like shame or expose you, because we all have stuff inside that we never want to think about or talk about, but it's hard to be free from what you don't even know is holding you prisoner. Like, you need to be able to see that, and to have like just the loving like truth of God's light bringing that to the surface. And the word that's used for spirit in that bit in Proverbs, you find it right at the beginning in Genesis, when God first breathed life into Adam. So it's called Nishma L'chaim, it's this Hebrew word. So it's like in Genesis 2, God breathed Nishma L'chaim into Adam, the breath of life. So you have this passage in Proverbs which is talking about this spirit being a light, and you have it back at the very beginning when God made us, and it's not just light, but it's life. Every time you're breathing in light, you're breathing in life. And it's just, I guess, connecting to this holy mystery that, like, here in your lungs, it's something more than just air and oxygen. Like, even when you look at the root word for pneumonia or pneumatic, so pneumonia is like a disease with the lungs and you can't breathe. Pneumatic is something that's powered by air. So the root word is pneuma, which is Greek for soul. So like in just our collective human history and awareness, there's this inkling of an idea that there's just a little bit more happening there, like in your lungs. So I think those are some of my favorite thoughts and quotes that I will always try and weave into a class, if it's Christian. If it's not Christian, I love to just encourage people to marvel at the goodness of their body. And like, even if I can't say this, but like, God is so smart. The way he designed it is so good. Like the way that your breath and your brain work together to help your body to feel peace. Like I think in Philippians 4, classic Christian phrase we all know, it's like, cast your cares onto God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind. And I'm such a firm believer that this peace isn't this sort of mental or like just emotional sense of peace, but it's like a deep embodied sense of peace, like deep in your bones, like the different pranayama exercises, like big belly breath, breathing in for 3, exhale for 6, like really trying to engage your diaphragm and breathe big into your belly, this like kickstarts your parasympathetic nervous system way of being. Like all these things that are just there on the internet, like if you know, Google it. But it's so good for your body. Like your parasympathetic nervous system is that state of rest and digest.
Rest and digest.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite to fight or flight.
Yeah, and like being busy and
being
kind of
busy
like
and having to like
emails
like go. Yeah, it's like instilling that parasympathetic system. It's like, okay, now the body's okay. I'm not in danger.
I can now be calm.
I can be, and you know,
and it's the state that you get into just before you fall asleep, or like when you are at home and you're at your most relaxed and you don't even realize it,
or in a yoga class,
Just saying. But like your breath can do that for you. Like if you hear this in a yoga class and you think, gosh, I'm about to go into a meeting, I can feel myself sweating, I'm really stressed, take a second, close your eyes, go to the toilet cubicle, lock the door if you don't want people to be looking at you, breathe deep into your belly, feel your shoulders calm, feel like even the muscles in your face just soften because you've just stopped to breathe a bit better. It is so grounding. It's like this is the gift of the breath of God in your body, helping you to like find that transcendent like sense of peace that's in scripture. I just thought about it for ages. I'm so sorry guys, I feel like I just waffled on.
No, not at all. It's demonstrating there's so much crossover, and I hope that you can also see those crossovers and bring that practice into your life, or weave it, integrate whatever your faith or practice may be. You know, just doing a simple breaths like you said, like a 3-5. Is it 3-5-6 or 3-5-7 breath? So you inhale for 3, you hold for 4, you exhale for 5 or 6. There's these simple technique, the 4 squared, and really visualize the squares. It's truly sensational. Just like Ennette said, she's so beautifully executed just the meanings and the benefits of Christian yoga. And I really hope
you guys
I listen to you all the time, all day. I love this topic.
Why we're here.
I love it. I love it.
Because we're the same.
Yeah, we're exactly the same, and we love it. And obviously I'm a yogi too, and I love that crossover. I love
it's so powerful.
That it's so powerful
for every part, mind, body, soul,
for every part of the body, and it can be tailored to everyone's life. You just have to be open to receiving. That's just kind of what my standpoint is. I kind of not necessarily remove, but I value and I appreciate its roots. I have an understanding of what's been documented, so the Hindu text, which goes back and dates thousands of years. You know, we come from.
I think you would know more about this than I do, because I'm just like, oh wow, I was like, this is movement practice, and you can weave it into your faith. But like, we need to have like a deep dive.
Yeah, we will. We'll have a good chat because I love movement therapy, and I geek out. I get into really specific words and I'm going deep into anatomy.
I love it.
But it's lovely, and I just really want people to take away the fact that they can integrate the two. You know, God is with you. God likes yoga.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's a new t-shirt. God likes yoga.
God likes yoga. I've been saying this the last few weeks. We'll do yoga in heaven. It's going to be my book title. Watch this space. God likes yoga.
So I think we'll wrap it up there. And again, thank you, Ennette, for joining us today. I know.
I've talked to you guys for so long.
We would love to keep going. I would love to keep going with you.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure we'll see you again. We'd love to get you back on. We'd love to visit.
One more question, I guess. What are you doing now? What's the future?
Oh my God.
Where can we
all even like right now, and I was like, I'm not from London. I'm going to What am I doing now? So I work with LICC, the London Institute for Contemporary Christianity. So if you're out there hustling in your 9 to 5 and you're like, God, where are you in this? Like, my spreadsheets are so boring. My colleagues are so mean. Like, there's no way that you are here in this place with me. Like, this is what we love to help you with. So something I'm really excited about is like our YouTube series that will be coming out in September. We've got Called Out Music potentially signed up to be doing an episode with us. If you've ever come across him, Samuel, he's really lovely. We'll be talking about Christians and online dating. But like, Christians talk swearing. Did Jesus swear when he flipped the table? Like, flip, get these broods of vipers out of here. Like, he was a real human being. Maybe he dropped a cheeky F-bomb in there. I'm ready.
It's another t-shirt. Jesus said the F word.
So just basically trying to have candid conversations about the real nitty-gritty of what it means to be like a Christian 18 to 35 in just contemporary life, like right now. So that's coming up soon. I'm so excited for that.
And where can we find you? The listeners, the viewers, where can we find you? Reach out to you?
Please reach out to me. I love it. I think in a really dangerous move, my phone is actually on the website. Like, I'm terrible with emails. Send me a cheeky WhatsApp voice note. I love them. I live for them. So if you do enough of a deep dive, you'll be able to get in touch. Send me a message. On Instagram, it's at Imago Dei Wellbeing. It's all one word. It's Latin, like I said earlier. It just means image of God. So Imago Dei Wellbeing. Hopefully, if you put that into YouTube or Google, my face will come up. And it's not a black girl with like doing yoga smiling. It's not me, but hopefully it should come up.
We'll link everything below as well and in the description.
Oh, thank you so
everyone
much.
Can find you. But thank you so much. I've been enlightened in this conversation, honestly. It's been a pleasure.
I feel touched. I went to church today. Love that. I feel great.
Genuinely. Like, I feel like that the room is just the spirit in the room. It's just genuinely amazing. It's been great.
Thanks so much.
Share so openly and talk about what I love about yoga and my faith. Like, that's always so special. So thank you.
And I'm sure we'll probably cross paths with these exciting things coming up on your side. I'm sure
we're in Nottingham as well.
But like Body in the City, I love it. We're here.
Amazing. So again, thank you so much for joining us today on Body in the City Goes Digital with the lovely Ennette at Imago Dei. As always, we're very happy to have seen you, and we wish you nothing but love, light and blessings. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh my gosh, I have to end. Guys, I don't smoke anymore. It was like a torturous time in my 20s. Like, just FYI, Mum, if you're listening. So it was like for 3 months. Okay, bye. Bye.